Long ago, there was a great king who had 4 sons. When the king had grown old and died, his kingdom was passed on to the hands of the eldest son, Llud. Llud looked out on his father's lands, which were known as the island of Britain. His father was a good king, but Llud wanted to be a great king, well known to his people. He rebuilt the city of Llud, which would become known as London, surrounding it with high walls that were guarded by great towers. He brought his people to the city and told them to build fine houses. Because of this, the city was renowned throughout the kingdom. Now, of his brothers. Llud was known as a good and just king, and also a great warrior, but his brother Llefelys was known as the wisest man in the kingdom. Whenever Llud had a problem that he couldn't figure out, he went to Llefelys, and the man always had the answer. Eventually, news of the death of the king of France reached Llud, so he went to his brother. He told Llefelys that the king had left no heir and a beautiful daughter. Llefelys knew that marrying the princess of France would add to the glory of their family, and so, with Llud's permission, Llefelys set sail for the kingdom of France. Once they landed, Llefelys sent word to the kingdom, not wanting anyone to get the wrong idea about why a ship full of knights had arrived. Once all was clear, Llefelys presented himself to the princess and the nobles of France. They were so taken by the prince from Britain that they gave the princess's hand to him in marriage almost immediately. Llefelys became the ruler of France until the day he died, and was known as a wise and just king, similar to his brother. Yet all was not well in the kingdom of Britain. Over time, 3 plagues settled upon the city of Llud. The first was the arrival of the Coraniaid, a race of dwarven-like creatures who had great knowledge, and knew all of the secrets of the land, regardless of how low they were whispered. No one could attack the Coraniaid, for they knew the attack before it was coming. Every May Eve, the second plague would settle on the city. A terrible shrieking noise would be heard throughout Llud. The shriek would pierce through the hearts and minds of every man, woman, and child that heard it. People would be weakened or driven insane at the sound. Pregnant women would miscarry, trees would die, and water would dry up. Though these would be enough to fall any kingdom, a third plague eventually settled over the city. All of the provisions that were stored for the city in the king's larders would go missing. No one could figure out how such a thing could happen. They would awake the next day and the cupboards would simply be bare. Finally, King Llud had enough. Secretly, with no words passed so that the Coraniaid could not discover his plans, he set sail for the waters of France to talk with his brother. King Llefelys heard of his brother's fleet sailing towards his kingdom and sailed to meet him. When the two finally came together, Llefelys informed his brother that he already knew why he had come. He brought forth a special horn that would mask their words so that the Coraniaid would not be able to hear their words on the wind. The wise King Llefelys explained to his brother that his problems were easily solved. First, he gave his brother insects to solve his problem of the Coraniaid. He told his brother to grind some of the insects up and mix them with water. Once he returned to his kingdom, he should call together a great assembly in the city. Llefelys then told him to invite the Coraniaid so that he might discuss peace between them and the people of Britain. Once they arrived, he would spray the water across the assembly. Llefelys explained that the waters would kill the Coraniaid, but not harm any of Llud's other subjects. For the shriek that cursed his lands, Llefelys explained that 2 dragons were fighting beneath the earth, and the sounds of battle were causing the second plague. He told Llud that he needed to find the exact center of his kingdom and dig a great pit. He told him to brew a great vat of mead, the finest that his people could make, and lay it in the pit. For the third plague, Llefelys told his brother that the provisions were being stolen by a sorcerer with great magics. Using his powers, he put everyone in the castle to sleep and then merely stole the food afterwards. He told Llud that he should keep a tub of cold water nearby, and once he feels himself falling asleep, he should dip himself in the tub to stay awake. With these instructions, Llud returned once more to his kingdom. He called forth a great assembly of peace in the city square, and all of his subjects and the Coraniaid were in attendance. Once there, he sprayed the water mixed with the insects over the crowd. The Coraniaid died, while his own people were healthy and happy. Thus, the kingdom was saved from the first plague. Next, he discovered the very center of his kingdom in Oxford. There, he dug a great pit and placed the vat of mead at the bottom. The king and his men waited, and in the dead of night, they saw 2 great dragons fighting each other. One glistened with white scales, while the other bore a striking crimson red. The dragons thrashed and fought as 2 great predators. Finally, they became tired in their battle and fell into the vat of mead. Rather than drown, both dragons began to drink mead until the last drop was gone. Tired and full of alcohol, both dragons drifted off to sleep. Llud wrapped them both in a cloth and buried them within a stone chest, just as his brother had instructed. Thus, the kingdom was saved from the second plague. Now, the people were happy again, and so King Llud called together a great feast. While his subjects drank and made merry, Llud waited with a tub of cold water by his throne. The feast lasted late into the night, and finally, Llud began to hear strange music, and everyone began to drift off to sleep. Quickly, the king got into the tub of water, and the icy temperature kept him awake. He waited and watched until eventually a large man in armor entered the room carrying a strange basket. The man walked around the room, taking the food and drink and placing it inside the basket. Finally, Lludd came forth, challenging the man to put back the food he had stolen or face him in combat. The king defeated the man, who then begged for his life. He offered to repay everything that he had stolen and then some. Lludd accepted, and once again, the kingdom rejoiced, thus ending the third plague. Finally, the kingdom of Britain returned to peace and happiness. Lludd ruled over Britain for the rest of his life and was known as a king of great renown. Thank you so much for watching this Tales of Earth video. I am super sorry if I goofed up any of these pronunciations. I tried my best with what I was given. As you can see by the spelling versus the pronunciations that I found, there's a lot of dissonance there. If you want to see more content like this, be sure to give this video a like and let us know what you want to see next in the comments down below.